Well, if you go over here to this faucet, you turn it on and the water comes on and it goes down the drain and goes away. You go in the bathroom, once you put it in the mug, it goes away too. Water comes through there. And that doesn't happen except for people like Niki, Ensor, and others under her team that supply the water and sewer services to the region. Niki Ensor serves as the utilities director for the city of Kingsport. Throughout her 25 years at the city of Kingsport, she has operated the water treatment plant, served as the water plant superintendent, managed the water and wastewater facilities. She holds a grade 4 wastewater, grade 5 water, and grade 2 distribution license. Niki earned a MS in public administration and a BS in environmental health from East Tennessee State University. She's active in professional organizations, serving the Kentucky-Tennessee AWWA section as district coordinator and chair of the Honors and Awards Committee. Returning to our podium from previous appearances is Niki Ensor. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to stand. I hate not to stand at the podium, but I'm going to have my computer so that I can have some notes, because if I'm not, I'll go, oh no, I forgot to say this or I forgot to say that. So I appreciate you guys inviting me back. Like Mark said, I've been with the city for 25 years and enjoyed every bit of it. I've been given a lot of opportunities here at the city. He did ask me about some personal stuff, and I thought, man, I really need to put some stuff in there. I've got a daughter, a cat, and a dog. So that's what I've got. So I've been with the city 25 years, but the city water department started back in 1907 when J. Fred Johnson, one of our city founders, started to purchase property and buy 1,300 acres of land up on Bays Mountain for a water system. Going back through old articles, it was mostly due. They had some wells down here in the city, and a lot of those were going bad and wasn't sufficient water quality. So they started looking up on the mountain for a good water source, and so they surveyed the area between Bays Mountain and the Holston River Mountain, and do the convergence. That's how they decided where to put the dam there at Dolan Gap. And that was the Kingsport Water Corporation. It took them 2 years to build the dam. The first year they built the dam, and then the second year they decided to come back. I really am having a hard time with this. I'm not very good at standing still and talking. But on the second year they started putting these abutments in. It's been said that it took them 2 years to do that. That was in 1906, and then in 1916, water began flowing down from Bays Mountain in a 10-inch pipe down to Kingsport. That 10-inch pipe part of that 10-inch pipe is still in service. We actually had a repair on it about a month and a half ago, and so we do have infrastructure in our system that is that old. So 4 months later, after the water began to flow, City of Kingsport was incorporated. The dam is about 600 feet above the City of Kingsport, and the lake is 35 acres. They had a series of pressure-reducing valves coming down the hill, so you can imagine the amount of pressure 1,600 feet above and what the pressure would be at the bottom. So they had a series of pressure-reducing valves to moderate the pressure. And I don't think that was super reliable for them. They would have days where they would have a whole lot of pressure and days where they'd have very little pressure, and then other days where they'd have no water at all. So it's a far cry from where we are today. In 1919, due to taste and odor issues, plant. So the first water constructed on Bays Mountain. It was about 345 feet below the dam. Reinforced concrete. It was 3 stories high. Filters could filter about 1 million gallons a day, and it was said to have had enough supply for 3,000 people, I think. So speaking of horsepower, it took 63 tons of reinforced steel and 10,000 bags of concrete. All of that come up the mountain through horsepower. And so how many horsepower do we have here? What was that, 44? 44 horsepower. So it was also interesting. Yeah, I really had a hard time. I did a presentation on this about a month ago now on this. But when I was putting this presentation together, I really had a hard time getting off the mountain and down to the water treatment plant because I just had all these articles that you would read through. It was so interesting. So there was several residents that lived up on the mountain, and a lot of them would just pitch in and help during the dam construction. And then it was said that those folks used their horses and their mules to help get the stuff up the mountain. Again, it's a lot to say from back in 1916, 1920, when having running water was a luxury, and now it's taken for granted. So, and it was said that this was the most difficult part of the dam construction. There was 2 operators at on the mountain, it was Robert Rufus Nelms and his wife Ruby lived there, and Ruby's father G.A. Barlow all lived up on the mountain, and they actually had a cabin up there. That was not that uncommon all the way up probably to the 1950s, 1960s. It wasn't uncommon for operators to live there at the plant so that they could monitor it and start the plant up during the day and shut it down in the evening. So it's just kind of a later thing that we don't have people living there at the plant. This is a picture of Rufus, G.A. Barlow, and Ruby on top of the wash water tank. Again, I just really, the old pictures to me were super interesting. So this wash water tank, that's how you backwash filters. So you got to clean the filters once the water goes through. Backwash utilized to clean the filters. This picture was super interesting. I had to delete a bunch of them, but there was a old boat at the lake and a new boat. So they were really proud of their new boat. And so, but I can't imagine what it must have been like to live there during this time with the number of people that were there. I mean, what a great opportunity that would be. I mean, we pay big money for that now. This is what's left of the water filter plant. I believe from what I understand, the building on the right, the brick building, that was a chemical feed that happened later on. The picture on the left, you can see the 10-inch line coming down through there. Apparently, there was a big rainstorm in the 1960s, and a landslide came through. Lots of rocks and boulders come down and knocked most of the system or the structures away. So in 1926, Kingsport Waterworks sold the water system to the city of Kingsport for $300,000. Wiedemann Singleton did the engineering for there. And at the time, we had 12,000 customers. And by 1928, we added an additional 800 customers. A lot of the old news reports recorded a lot of lack of water. There would be days where we would have to do water conservation. I ran into a article in 1925 that said that referenced back that we hadn't had to have a water restriction since 1925. So this was a big deal. That's a lot of growth in it. What's interesting about this is, to me, was the amount of public involvement that they had. They had a meeting at the Y. They did a presentation. Everyone voted on it, and they said, yeah, this is absolutely a go. Part of that was of the new expansion, or the new plant would be a 1 million gallon water storage tank. We call it Cemetery Hill, but it's at Oak Hill Cemetery. And so there's a water storage tank on Oak Hill, and it's still there today, and we still utilize that today. Of course, it's been rehabbed a couple of times, but we're still utilizing that same infrastructure that was put in 1928. Capacity was 2 million gallons. Also, I couldn't find, if anybody is aware of anything of this, if you have any big history buffs, Borden Mills donated the land for the city for the water intake. But they had mentioned building an emergency intake, an emergency water treatment plant at Borden Mills. But I couldn't find any other reference to that other than in one article. So if someone is aware of something like that, definitely let me know, because I had never heard that before. So in 1928, construction began. The project was split into nine bids. That was very interesting. What was even more impressive to me, there were 45 bidders on this project. I don't know how many people do construction in here, but our last large construction project that we did, we had 2 bidders, and it was for $6 million. And so you're looking at $400,000 worth of work. The plant was $400,000, and there was 45 bidders. So that was super interesting. June 11th, 1929 was the first day water was pumped through the plant. That portion of the plant still there today. You can see the make sure I don't hit the wrong button. I can't see. This right here is an aeration aerators, and so that was also there to help with taste and odors. I'm sure when it was operating, it was beautiful. It's probably just like a big water fountain. That structure is still there, but it's no longer in operation. Also interesting enough, beautiful. It's amazing to me. Also goes back to how important water was when water plants and distribution systems and getting water to people's homes first began. There was a lot of pride taken in that. And you can see that in the construction of the plant. You can see the arched windows, the filter controls were marble. And if you go to places like Nashville and Omaha and those places, it is absolutely an architectural it's beautiful, beautiful. You don't get that now. It's too expensive. But now when you do, you'll get a membrane plant, and it'll be typically it'll be a steel building to keep costs down. But I think that's amazing to me. Also, when I do this presentation, I struggle with, I love what I do, and I love water, and I have a hard time making it interesting to other people. So, but with that being said, matter of fact, in my last presentation, they thought this was going to be like watching paint dry. So hopefully that it will not be the case for you. But for me, this was huge. And I have this in my office. I took it so that it would never get thrown away. Every month we have to send operational reports to the state. And this is the very first MOR from the very first day that the water plant started pumping water into the distribution system. And we still have that. I need to get that to the archive so nothing happens to it. But I just think that's an amazing piece of history to me. So that's the entryway. And you can see, the architecture, the entryway up to the filters. That's in 1929, and then the one on the right's today. At the time, this was a state-of-the-art lab. That is one of the original operators there at the plant, M.L. West. Also very interesting. A lot of the news reports or the articles stated how this was a state-of-the-art facility at the time, best in the region. We also had one of the first certified operators in the state. We also still have his certification, operator certification. All operators have to be certified with the state, and he has certification number 6. So, we were cutting edge. Also, that room there started out as our laboratory. At one point, it turned into our control room. And now it is our break room. So in an old facility, things have to be repurposed. It's a little more difficult sometimes, but things have different life cycles. And so now it's our break room. And I'll just go through a series of pictures here. These are our first chlorinators. This is how you feed chlorine here in the plant. Those are no longer there. This is inside the plant in the basement of the wastewater treatment at the water treatment plant. Go back. There's a actual water turbine back in the back that would provide power to the plant. So as the water came off the hill off Bays Mountain, because at this time we were still utilizing Bays Mountain water and also utilizing water from the South Fork of the Holston. That's where we get our water from now. But there was a turbine back there that we would use to provide power. And those pumps there are distribution pumps. So once the water was treated, those pumps there were used to pump water into the system. This is a filter gallery. Not all of that equipment, but a lot of that equipment was there when I started in 1998. And all those pipes are still there, but some of the other apparatuses aren't there. So in 1943, there was another expansion. Again, it was just in time. We had to, the War Production Board approved a request for materials needed for the plant. It took almost a year to get that approval from them. And if they hadn't got the approval when they did, there would have been water shortages that summer. And again, these are just older pictures from the water treatment plant. There's the aerators in the back during that time. So in 1944 is when we discontinued use of water from Bays Mountain. We did yet another expansion, adding a second 16-inch water line, and I'll show you those, the raw water line coming up the bluff to the water treatment plant. When I came in 98, we were talking about a project to remove those pipes and utilize a different conveyance system there, and we finally finished that, I think, in 2016. So there's a construction of Westview water tank. That tank is also still in use. Done a couple of rehabs on that one. So this is the original raw water intake. You can see, I'm going to see if I can, hope this. Oh, look at me. You can see the two raw water lines coming up the bluff here. So these two raw water lines, water comes in here at the bottom. They have filters there. They get pumps are here in the bottom, and they get pumped up this bluff underneath John B. Dennis through a tunnel and over to the water treatment plant. That's how the water gets there. There's two 16 inches, and then when later in the 70s we added a third. But you'll see the project that we did on that in 2016. But that was a source of a lot of sleepless nights for us, because you can imagine other pictures will show how steep that is. But if we had had a break on that time, how long it would have took us to fix it. Oddly, couldn't find any articles about it. But in the 70s, there was a break there, and it took them 3 days to repair that waterline break. Also very interesting to me, maybe not to you, but the cost of these projects, $60,000 to add 2 filters, that's crazy. I mean, things are so expensive now. 1954, we began adding fluoride to water. This was, at the time, one of the biggest city elections, best city turnout ever. And they controversial issue to from the 60s I guess until 2016, it was just a series of improvements, adding a pump station, adding a filter, and I tell everybody, it's like, now I know what you guys feel like when people like me talk about this. I was like, that's super boring. You added another filter, you added another this, but it's all very much needed. But it's like, it's kind of repetitive. But again, they did an expansion at this time. The capacity was 1 million, but due to the growing need for water. The daily demand was 4.5, but they were exceeding that during the summer months. And they attributed the increase in demand due to washing machines, dishwashers, and local industries. So, low flow fixtures had the same effect, but just the opposite way. So we started seeing a decline in over the years in our average daily demand due to low flow fixtures, low flow toilets, and that sort of thing for conservation measures, which is a good thing. So in this 1961 article, using 300, the United States was using 323 billion gallons of water a day. And they was estimated in 1961 that in the year 2000, it would reach 880 billion. But a quick Google search shows that we're only using 408 million. So again, conservation measures or really bad estimating. Either way. So in the 1970s, we grew quite a bit, mostly due to acquisition of smaller utility districts. We had, I guess it was about 6 utility districts that we took over during this time, and so we had to do additional improvements for that. Again, there's the 30-inch raw water line that we added, sedimentation basins, filters. It was really the way Wiedemann and Singleton designed the plant, they always made sure that they were able to expand. And so I think it was during this expansion, they expanded it to added 4 filters, but they only put 2 in, knowing that they could put the other 2 in when demand, the need for more water. So in the 70s, we were using an average of 7 million gallons a day. We had 225 miles of water line and 12,000 customers. And that's a pretty modern picture of what it looks like there now in the back of the plant. And you can see that's the, God, I can't see. That's the aeration basin there. They added the, let's see. They added a million-gallon clear well. That's the concrete pad outside, clarifier. And that's how we did. Once the solids are removed, mud, dirt removed from the river or from the water, it goes to this clarifier down there for disposal. During that construction, there's the new raw water intake. We only installed two screens, and then we added a third. We actually added the third when I came into 2 years after I got there in 2000. That one right there was added. So these 2 screens did for quite a while, and you can see the 30-inch line coming up through there. That was the new 30-inch line. Okay, and so in 1980s, yet another series. You can see the construction costs. We're at $2 million now. Different types of capital improvements projects, but the cost increasing, but for the same amount, same type of improvements. In the 80s, we're pumping in 12 million gallons of water, 19,000 water customers, and we have 15 water storage tanks. Another expansion. I get it. This is boring. So I'm going to clip through this. I don't even have anything exciting to say about it other than we continue to. Actually, that's not true. It's not exciting, but that's part of the problem with water and sewer. It's not exciting. You don't care as long as you go over there and you turn it on and you flush it and it goes away. So I will say that it gets very exciting some of those things don't work. And so I will say that. I shouldn't, but to go through all the expansions. But to Kingsport's credit, they were always looking forward. They were always reinvesting. And so that we were always ready for whatever was coming next. And so we never found ourselves and haven't found ourselves in a water shortage or in some of these issues that you're seeing hit the news these days. So it is boring, but it is extremely important. Those are sedimentation basins. I did this presentation just on the history of how we progressed from 1907 to current day. I didn't go through the treatment, but in this, these are, we call these sedimentation basins. So once the water comes through, you mix the coagulant with it, and it kind of works like a cake, making a cake. Put the cake batter in there. In the back, you have flocculators, and it mixes it all up. And then when it comes through here, all your solids will settle out, and all the clear water on top will go to the filters. So this is kind of the intermediate settling. And these are the raw water pumps and flash mix. It's when I came in '98, I thought that flash mix had been out there. That's where the mixers are. That's where you're making the cake. I thought that was always there. It wasn't. So that's what the filter gallery looks like now. You can see the updated controls. I wish I would have took a picture of the old controls. We still have one. We kept one just so that people could see the marble stand and that sort of thing. And I think when John was there at the time, you were required to make sure that we kept one of those. So this is an older picture of the lab. It looks very much the same. This is when the lab was built. See the mullet. So I like people pictures, so that was very interesting. In 2000, we really started seeing a lot of automation in water treatment. We just recently completed another upgrade in automation 3 years ago with SCADA, and you'll see a lot of that now. You probably hit the news a couple of months ago, cybersecurity. That's where all your risk there is. Filter plant improvement, gallery improvements. Did a huge residual projects. 2011. To me, this is one of the better things that I've been a part of since I've been at the city and a part of the utilities department. We did a water system master plan. And so we wanted to make sure we knew a lot of improvements needed to happen and they were coming. And so we wanted to look at a 30-year projection, see what our population projections, see what the demands was going to be so that we went forward through our capital improvements plan so that we didn't upgrade something in the middle that turned out to be the catch point for something that should have happened before. And so we went through this whole process. We're still utilizing it today. We're still doing projects out of this today. We're going to do a small upgrade or a revision of the plan this year, go back, make sure we're still on track. But we've completed about $20 million worth of projects. So this is super interesting. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. So I showed you the raw water intake and the raw water transmission lines coming up the bluff under John B. Dennis over to the plant. Again, Ron and we talked about this project for years. They were talking about it in 1998 when I came. Two studies. And then this was the first project out of the master plan. So we had to figure out how to get the water from the river to the plant with reliability, redundancy, and with as little risk as possible. And so essentially we had kept the same intake. We did a 24-foot vertical shaft, and the water come into this shaft, and then we tunneled 1,100 feet under John B. Dennis, got away from the lines, under John B. Dennis, and now it gravity feeds over to the water treatment plant, where we have pumps that lift it up at the water treatment plant. We have pumps there that have lifted 130 feet from the ground, underground, up to the plant. And then we added additional pumps. Again, reliability, redundancy. We've added a fourth pump. We have 4 raw water pumps. Takes 2 to meet our demand. And so if we have one pump go down, we still have two there to help us meet demand. Or if we have to take one out of service for routine maintenance, because you just never know. I mean, you could take one out of service, the other one go down, and it takes way too long. With supply chain issues that we have now, nothing happens overnight. It will take us probably a year to get one of those pumps back. If we bought one today, it would probably take us a year to get that pump in. So you have to, and again, the cost of this construction, $14 million. So those are the raw water transmission lines that we were trying to remove. That's the tunnel under John B. Dennis. Okay, and so that's the vertical shaft that you're seeing, that circle there. That's looking down into there. Make sure to see notes. Lots of, I've never been involved in a blasting project before. There was lots of dynamite used in this project. It was fun. Again, it was great. Was able to go into this tunnel. This tunnel, I hope, will never be empty again. And so if you were one of the lucky ones that got to take a walk through the tunnel, that it was just an amazing experience. That's the vertical tunnel completed inside and out. You see the difference. Some of the miners, they were a great group of guys. So that pipe that's running up above that's ventilation. That's a picture as we were tunneling underneath. Oops. And this is at the plant. This is when we're drilling the vertical shafts. These are for the pump shafts. We did this at the same time that we were tunneling towards the plant, and we were also doing the vertical shafts at the same time. Again, so that's one of that's 130 feet shaft. Actually, that's the sleeve that goes down. This was extremely nerve-wracking that day. To the very left of that shaft is our chlorine building. So we were all like, "Oh, please don't drop it on the chlorine building." So, and that's our raw water pump house now. It's 2 sides. It's got a pump side and electrical side. That's also very new to water treatment. It's so sensitive now. It has to be all the space has to be air conditioned because the electronics can't take the heat. That feeds the raw water pump station. You have a generator. When we did the generator at this project, we looked at having 2 feeds coming in from AEP so that we wouldn't need the generator. We had a lot of conversations with the AEP, and they were great. And they said, look, if you're on the most reliable one, if you lose the most reliable one, the other one's not going to be there for you. So we opted to put in a generator. So no power issues, then we can operate 24/7. It has, I think, 3 days worth of fuel storage. So today we have a capacity of 28 MGD. We're averaging 17 million gallons. We have 22 water storage tanks that'll hold 18.4 million gallons of storage we have out in the system, 850 miles of water, and 39,000 customers. We're currently operating about 60% capacity, and we could probably add about 22,000 residential customers. 22,000 residential customers before we'd have to do any kind of major improvements at the water treatment plant. Our water storage tanks are also inspected every 5 years from a third-party engineer. And so from those reports, we'll have improvement projects come out of that as well. So we're continuing to reinvest, continuously reinvest. So the next phase, we have 2 big projects going on now. These are not the only 2 projects that the utilities department has on, but these are probably 2 of the biggest. We're going to go towards the high service pump station. The high service pump station are the pumps that pump finished water out into the system. And we're going to add a 4th pump. That way we'll have the redundancy. Again, we utilize 2 pumps. One of those goes down, we have 2, and then we're just holding our breath that everything gets back online before we get the other. So while they have the 4 pumps, make sure that we can pump water at any time. Again, the cost of this, $8 million. Also a new climate-controlled electrical room, and you'll see why. There's an overview. But this is the current pump station. You can see the old electrical equipment. It's in the same room as the pumps. Those pumps, the new electrical equipment, drives, those sort of things can't take that heat. Love this project. 100% grant funding. I have never been involved in a project in utilities that we were able to get that kind of funding. Tennessee, state of Tennessee has really allocating I think it was $3.2 billion, don't hold me that number, and dedicated that strictly for water, sewer, and stormwater projects across the state. And we received over $16 million worth of ARP grant dollars for that. So there's some other smaller projects going on. A lot of those are planning projects, but 100% ARP and ARC funding. So very proud of that. Again, it's there's no truer quote to this. We're only here because we have water. There would not be businesses here. There will not be homes here. You would not be here. You can see the reports coming from Colorado. People are leaving there because they can't utilize their water the way they want. They can't build there. John was just telling me before that a permit there is $40,000 to build a home strictly because of water. So I can't say it enough. As boring as this may be to most of y'all, it is unbelievably important. And, this generation that sits here understands that. My generation, the next generation, the generation after that have no clue. And so we have to continually educate them that it requires reinvestment. It takes care in protecting our resources. I didn't say anything about that, but in 1907, when they built the dam at Bays Mountain, they talked about how the great water quality and the quantity that they had, and they had that there, but the city outgrew it. Kingsport is so blessed with our water source. We have plenty of flow. Low flow for the South Fork of the Holston is I think it's 800 cubic feet per second. That's 23 million gallons an hour. And so we're withdrawing 17 million gallons a day. And so there's plenty of water. It's good quality water. We're pretty up high in the watershed. And so we're very blessed to have that. And we're very blessed to have a city and leadership that understands the importance of this and lets us to keep continuing on making sure that you guys have water every day. So, any questions?
If I remember correctly,